In this video, we're going to talk about the type of market failure that occurs in the presence of public goods. Public goods are characterized by two things. The first is that they're non-rival in consumption. What that means is that when one person consumes it, it does not reduce either the quantity or the quality of the good available for someone else. The second is that it's not possible to exclude other people from consuming the good once it's produced. A private good is the exact opposite of this. It is both rival in consumption and it's feasible to exclude other people from this. If you eat a candy bar, no one else gets any benefit from that. And furthermore, you're able to keep that candy bar yourself so that once you have it, it's not available for everyone else to consume as well. A public good, once the good's produced, everybody gets it, and you can't keep other people from consuming it. Probably the easiest way to talk about this is to consider some examples. A really nice, simple example involves radio signals that are sent in an unscrambled manner through the air. If you have a radio tuned to that station, listening to the station neither reduces the quantity nor the quality of the good available for anyone else. And furthermore, if the signal's not scrambled, once they're released, anyone with a radio receiver can consume it. The person who produces that cannot prevent other people from consuming that. Notice things are a little bit different if the signals are scrambled and you have to purchase a license to activate some type of decoder. National defense is another classic example of a pure public good. Once national defense is provided, everyone within that geographical area receives the same level of benefit from that. Lighthouses is another older example of a public good, because once you have the lighthouse, the benefits are received by any boats that happen to use it. One of the things that characterizes some of these is that there is, to some extent, an issue of congestion costs with some examples of public goods. We have lots of goods that are public goods with congestion costs, including the lighthouse. If you have hundreds of boats all trying to use the lighthouse at once, it may not be very useful because they'll start running into each other. But for the other cases, I think this holds pretty well. But there's some cases where this becomes more obvious. Parks are an example. One person's use of Central Park does not significantly reduce the quantity or the quality of that park service available for other people. However, if you have a concert there and you have hundreds of thousands of people there, the presence of those additional people may alter the quality of the service received by other individuals who wish to consume the park. Highways are similarly an example. In an uncrowded highway, one more person's use of it neither reduces the quantity nor the quality of that highway service provided to anyone else. However, anyone who's driven through rush hour traffic in any large city will recognize that beyond some point, people start getting in each other's way and the quality of that public good will degrade as a result of that additional congestion. Information available on the internet is also in some ways a public good. As long as you have internet access, once the information is provided, again, assuming that it's not behind some type of a paywall, one person's consumption of that does not reduce the availability of that for anyone else, but again, it's subject to congestion costs. You've probably gone to a popular site where many other people are all going to it at once, and it may take a while to load or it may initially fail to load. So data stored in an unencrypted manner on the internet would be another example of a public good which has some congestion costs. Fire departments provide a local public good to people in the community in which everyone in the community receives some protection from the services the fire department provides. But again, if you have many fires breaking out all at once in a given region, as has happened out west quite often in recent years, then the quality of that service may degrade when the workers there are spread across a larger geographical area trying to put out more fires all at once. In general, the same principles apply for a public good as for any other good. The optimal level of provision occurs at the point where the social marginal benefit equals the social marginal cost. But things are different with public goods rather than private goods. In the case of a public good, once it's produced, everyone gets the same amount of the good, but receives different benefits from that. And again, that differs from a private good because when a private good is produced, each individual gets to choose the quantity of the good they receive, but their marginal benefit is set equal to the price if they're behaving optimally. But with a public good, everyone gets stuck with the same level of the activity, but they value it differently. For example, some people would like to see a higher level of national defense, and they receive a lot of benefit from that. Other people don't receive as much benefit from national defense and may argue that we're providing too much of that. And that's true with many public goods that are being provided. Some people would like to see more parkland. Others may feel that we've invested too much in parks, and that's because they may differ in terms of the marginal benefit they receive from the use of parks. But again, the optimal level of provision occurs where the social marginal benefit equals the social marginal cost. But in the case of public goods, the social marginal benefit is not just a benefit received by the one person that consumes it. Once a good is provided, the social marginal benefit is equal to the sum of the marginal benefits received by each and every individual. So you have to add up conceptually how much benefit is received by each person that consumes the public good. And that becomes a little bit more difficult because, again, everyone's getting a different benefit, and it's going to be difficult in practice to measure that because, for example, if you ask people how much benefit they get and they think you're going to charge them based on that, they may have an incentive to argue that they don't receive much benefit. On the other hand, if they don't think they're going to have to contribute very much to it, they may argue that they're getting a lot of benefit. So there's some incentive for people not necessarily truthfully reveal their benefits. The basic problem in this case with a public good is that once it's produced, everyone gets to consume it, even if they don't pay for it. And that results in what we call a free rider problem. And the free rider problem is that each individual has an incentive to let someone else pay for the good because they get just as much benefit from the good when someone else bears a cost as if they contributed to the payments for that. And most people would much prefer to get benefits without having to pay for the good. As an example, consider the case of public radio or public TV. Both are forms of a public good, and they're at least partly covered by contributions from viewers. If you contribute $50 to a public radio station, you might get a tote bag, you might get some other rewards from the radio station in return for the donation, but the quality of the service is not going to improve very much with your $50. They're not going to suddenly go out and completely revise their annual program if they get $50 more. And you'd get just as much benefit if your neighbor contributes $50 and you wouldn't have to pay anything for that. And as a result, most people who watch public TV or listen to public radio tend not to contribute to those fundraising drives. And we end up with too little of the good being produced, which is in general the problem with public goods. Most people would always prefer that someone else make the contribution and then they get the benefit. A useful analogy is to consider some of the group projects that you've been on. What often happens there is that many of the people working in the group end up shirking and not doing much of the work. The overall quality of the product would be better if everyone worked on it, but you get just as much benefit if someone else writes the paper or creates the project as if you did it yourself, if there is no mechanism in place that evaluates each individual's contribution. So the basic problem with public goods is that in the absence of some social coordination, we end up with too little of them being produced. Since markets generally do not work very well in the case of public goods, societies provide many public goods by either having society as a whole through governments creating public goods. That's why fire protection, police protection, parks and roads and bridges and so forth all tend to be produced through the actions of government, where the government collects tax revenue and it uses that to cover the cost of these public goods, which would tend not to be efficiently provided if the government didn't take that step. In some cases, the government directly produces it. In other cases, the government subsidizes the production of the good, as in the case of public radio and public TV.